Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on July 22nd, 2022 at approximately 6:19 a.m. PST. You never really try that in English. It seems we never really understand or can relate to just exactly how tied into this system we really are. On Thursday, my credit card went missing. I'm pretty certain you guys have gone through this before. That you've gone through something like this. My credit card went missing. I thought it was somewhere in the house, but I couldn't find it for love nor money. So now that happened on Thursday night. It wasn't until last night that the card showed up again. Now, I went through all the normal things. I phoned the credit card company to say, hey, I think I know I've lost my card, but I think it's still in the house. Don't cancel it. I'm just phoning to check out a couple of things. What I was actually looking for was what time the last transactions were made. Well, as it turned out, that confirmed I hadn't left the house with the card after I used it. But it wasn't until Sunday when a friend of mine came over that we managed to find the card again. But the point being that my stress level collapsed as soon as I had that card back in my hand. Okay, now there's a lot of reasons why people get stressed out over that. In my case, it was kind of a critical issue for me. But the second I found that my whole stress level collapsed, I was able to deal with the rest of this. And this is precisely why I say it is imperative that you get a handle on your finances and how they're operating. Because having your finances run in tandem will actually work really nicely to organize things. Now, for instance, I'm looking at my actual financial bills or financial records. I have them right up to date. Okay, so I know where I'm standing. And I know how to build it back up, but I'm right on top of it. And it's absolutely imperative if you desire to turn your life around, especially on the material world. Okay. It is absolutely imperative you stay on top of it. Now, I get that people don't like admitting they're not on top of it. Okay, I had a young lass call me yesterday, absolutely in panic over over how her finances were going to turn out. Okay, so I went to explain to her how to track it. She goes, I'm doing everything right. I know exactly what I'm doing. Well, if you're using that excuse for yourself, and I do call it an excuse, if you know exactly what you're doing, you're not going to be stressed out over whether you're going to do it. Okay, I mean, it's just that simple. I know you will keep an eye on things. You may be concerned over whether or not something's going to happen to your income. This makes sense. So brace accordingly. But to sit there and phone and to tell somebody, oh, I'm really edgy about this. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off. Okay. I've made that mistake. Okay, the first trick to gain your life in order in your eyes is acknowledge when you have a problem. Okay, acknowledge when there's something that doesn't fit. I can look at my finances and I know where I'm sitting, I know what I require. But I also know what the limits are. So am I stressed about it? No. I can look at it and go, I'm a little lower than what I'd like to be. And last month was devastating to my pocketbook. Of course, I did buy a bike and buy a car, and I did turn around and pay for a holiday. So it's understandable why my pocketbook took a kicking. Okay, today the task is real simple. Finish getting these shelves cleared off a fair chunk, so that I can actually get the office work. I've got to lay out which one goes where, like what's going on what shelf, so I can clear all the rest of the stuff out of the way. Okay, and this is just a normal routine. Okay, but the more in line you are with yourself, the more you're aware of where you're standing, okay, the better off you are. Now, this is why I've got this little sheet here. Yeah, and I'm not going to be able to get hold of it. There we are. And so, that's why I've got this sheet. Okay, because this particular sheet tells me exactly where I'm standing, or more to the point, what my goal is. Now, I've got to go through this and find out where I'm standing. And I wonder if I've got even a ballpark at this point. So if I look at that and I take a look at, and yes, this is a live recording, which literally means whatever I'm working on. Oh, look at that. Haven't even got that sorted out. Whatever I'm working on. Okay. Whatever hiccups I have, whatever glitches, whatever pauses, this is live. I get off this recording and I double check, make sure I got the date right, and then pop it clear. Now, I know I've got to make 38 at this point. Now I've got about, what do I got here? 2019, 1924. It's going to be cutting it real tight to make the 38 this month. Okay. Because I've got, like, I know for an absolute certainty what I'm sitting on. It's the last check of the month that I don't know. Now, I'm talking about gross income. I'm not worried about where it comes to the 38. That is gross income. Where it comes to bank balances, that is the final outcome. And both of these numbers I track. Both of these numbers are imperative for you to track. On your own stuff, that is. Okay. It's absolutely imperative in order to turn your life. Now, like I said, I've mentioned it multiple times that I came back to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people and remind everybody in existence that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, but working together means if you've got a strength, okay, I like the way it was put in Apocalypse, in the X-Men movie Apocalypse. I love the way it was put, where the request was, those of you that have the strength, defend those of you that don't. Now, in this case, when I'm talking defending, if you've got knowledge, reach out to the people around you and help them. Guide them where you can. My goal, where it comes to the finances here, is I've made a lot of really stupid maneuvers. I call them stupid because I knew better and did it anyway. Now, I am so far below where I would have liked to have been. But of course, I can calculate it and I can go, okay, I know I'm still in good enough shape. I can still function. Because the critical numbers, I'd already said, okay, this is as far down as I desire to go. But the critical numbers that I require are climbing. Okay, so I'm definitely down. It's going to take me, in all likelihood, 4 or 5 months. But by the end of this year, I'll be back up at what I desire. Never mind looking in inheritance. Now, here's the kicker for you. You take a look at where you are right now. Do not concern yourself, if you can avoid it at all. Do not concern yourself how you got there. I spent a lot of years trying to do that. I've seen a lot of people really looking, well, where did I make the mistake? Politely put, who cares? It was made, you can't change it anyway. You're just not going back in time and altering it. Now, I will tell you, I did hear somebody the other day. They made this comment, oh, they go back in time all the time and change things. I'll tell you right off the bat, in my opinion, society hasn't buckled. That's not being done. Okay, society's trying to buckle anyway, but you can go forward in time, absolutely, but you're not coming back. Okay, and we'll get to that on a different day. But where it comes to society, all of society, and I'm talking globally, not just your community. Okay, I'm talking the global course is leading to a disaster. Okay, now you don't have to believe me. Just take a look at what's going on. If you want to really depress yourself, compare it to ancient Rome. They did exactly the same thing. Now, yes, you may look at this and go, well, it took 400 years for Rome to collapse. Certainly. But they didn't have technology to the point where they could affect the entire global system with the flick of a switch. We're not looking at this taking 400 years. Okay? And I'm not going to give you a time frame on how much time we've got. I will tell you, however, the sooner that we as individuals reclaim power over our own life and absolutely take a look at your material world and alter it to what you're content with, the sooner we do that, the better off we are. Okay. Now, I have, from my standpoint, it's real simple. Take a look at your finances. Figure out where you're standing right now. Do not worry about how you got there. Worry about where you are and where you're going from here. Okay. Nope, and I've got to pause this for a moment. Well, that was a bit of a hiccup, so, like I said, when I have to pause things, this is live. I will not go back to patch that through, but get a look at where your finances are currently. Where you are going with them does not, where you've been with them and how you got to where you are is not a relevant concern. Because you cannot change it anyway. And I'll tell you, the number of times I've seen people really stressed out about where did I make the mistake? What did I do wrong? It doesn't matter. What does matter is get a look at where your finances are right now. Okay. And it doesn't matter when you do it, it'll be right now. You can postpone it 6 months, and it'll still be right now when you look at it. Okay. But get them written down so you know where you're standing. Then, at the end of the month, and I do mean in this case, we're looking at a week here-ish. At the end of the month, look at them again. See if you're 1 penny higher than what you were. If you are, you're heading the right direction. Okay. If not, it's time to really take a look at where you're spending your money. Excuse me. And make adjustments. Now, if you know how to track your money in just that simple fashion, then no problem. If not, find somebody that will do it for free. This is also known as your bank. Okay, the bank are the people that are trained to handle finances. Okay, now aim at them first. Many banks won't do it, but go and talk to them first. Or talk to somebody you know absolutely has done it properly and done it successfully to start with. In my case, I've made the mistakes. The 2 bankruptcies I went through, one was because of what I call creative financing. Okay. I managed way back. I managed to get a credit card bill. I managed to get a credit card that had a $1,000 limit over $2,000. Okay, now I called it creative financing. I figured I was real brilliant. Yeah, smart move. Ended up driving me into bankruptcy. Okay, but you figure out where you are, and then you only look at the issue of, are you 1 penny above what you had? If you are, you're on the right track. Okay, you're absolutely on the right track. And then you can work from there. Now, that said, I'm going to end up having to pause here again. So, instead of getting myself into a bind, I'm going to put this on hold. I'll be back momentarily. Okay? So, be right with you. Don't go away. In the meantime, check your bank balance and check your bank balances and see where you're sitting. Okay, and write them down. And I will be back momentarily. Well, that was a little bit longer than I was planning on, and unfortunately, the reason I had to put it on pause turned out to be a frankly waste of time. However, with that in mind, like I said, the critical factor at this point is absolutely get a look at where your finances currently are. It does not matter, and I know I've said this before, even on this particular recording. How you got to where you are does not matter 1 bit. What matters is what you do with it from here on out. So you mark down what your finances are right now, what your bank accounts look like, what you've got sitting in petty cash. If you end up with 1 penny more at the end of the month than you had at the end of last month, than you had at the beginning of this month, better way of putting it, then you're moving in the right direction. Okay, now I've got my office working properly. Okay, I am curious from your end whether or not the volume and the clarity on this particular recording is working better than the last. Because I do, although I'm not wearing it, I do have a lapel mic plugged in at this point. Okay, and I just don't trust technology for a lot of reasons. Okay, but you figure out where you're standing, figure out where what you're aiming at. Absolutely, and I've talked about this in previous videos. Absolutely make sure that you get listed what your bills are, so you can start targeting them and wiping them out. Okay. Now, as soon as I get off this, done with this recording, I will be going through things, and it's going to be cutting it tight for me. Okay. But I will be bringing my bank account balances up as much as I can to the proper level. Okay, that's going to take a little bit of work. I'm figuring with what I've done to myself with these 2 major purchases, and it's the same thing you have to look at. It doesn't matter if you're a multimillionaire or you're barely getting by. Okay, now when I talk about looking at your income, ideally you'll have 3 sources. Okay, doesn't matter what they are as long as they're legal. Okay, now in your case, what this usually means is you've got your normal employment, you may have a business or little side jobs that you do on the side, and many of you have government assistance coming in. Okay, whether that is social services, SSI, or some other acronym. Okay, or abbreviation. The reality is that's 3 sources. With each one of those sources, make sure, like, what you're aiming at ideally is each source you've got, have them bring in and target bringing in half of what you require. Okay, now at present, my work income, my job, is producing the massive majority of what I require. Now, if you take a look at 38 and 3,800, okay, well, to make ends meet, I've got to have 25. But to make 3,800, that means all of my different sources should each be bringing in, what would it be? 1,800, 1,850. Now, they are not doing that. Okay, they really aren't. But it still gives you a target point. I said, ideally, you will be bringing in half from each source. As it turns out, between my government income, as in my child tax credit, and income tax and what have you, my GST and PST, which is, and like, that's what we get up in Canada here. Okay, between them and my work, I'm bringing in over half of what I require. Okay, and of course, with my work itself is the other half, which is why I'm making headway. But it really boils down to knowing exactly what you're aiming for. If you've got a major purchase coming up, yes, absolutely, if you can afford it, go right ahead. But it's absolutely critical to understand one little detail, and that is that you're the one in control. Now, I will tell you, in my opinion, most people that run into this idea of having to go bankrupt, it's usually because you don't know how to dig yourself out. Okay, and here's what I found my personal experience with a bankruptcy trustee, actually with 2 different ones, was the only people that benefited from my bankruptcy, were the bankruptcy trustees. I didn't benefit. My credit rating got absolutely trashed, and the people that I legitimately owed money to, okay, they ended up not getting the money. So, we both lost. They got a little bit of money, as far as I understand. The people that made sure they got their entire amount was the bankruptcy trustee. Now, I will tell you, I've been bankrupt twice. Okay, and because of that, I figured out what I did wrong. Okay, or more to the point, I figured out what I was not going to do again. Today is a whole different ballgame. Right now, without causing myself a problem, I'm still sitting at 2 months living expenses in the bank. This is so much better than one paycheck to avoid living on the street. But once you have a handle on where your finances are sitting, where they currently are, not how you got to them, and not how you got to where you are, and understand this idea of tracking your finances and knowing what you're spending them on. The reason that works is because of the fact that you're sitting at this point. Now you've got something concrete to work with. Okay, I take a look at my desk over here. My painting station I can now go to work on. Okay, and I will be making absolute time for that today. As a matter of fact, where is my... Whoop. Put that in the way. Uh-oh. And we gotta pause. Well, this is certainly proving to be a different day. More pauses in this one than normal. As a matter of fact, I think more pauses in this one than ever, but I could be wrong. In any event, once you know where you're standing, that's the key. Okay? And there's nothing saying you cannot, that you shouldn't buy things for yourself. This is something else that you gotta remember. Okay? And this is the one thing that I will be shifting around. I've mentioned this before. Your paycheck comes in. I had one come in yesterday. Your paycheck comes in. Take a look at the amount of your paycheck. 1% of every complete $100 goes into your pocket. Okay, that is mad money. Now, if you've got a check that comes in less than $100, you still take 1%. Put that in your pocket. Okay, that's your mad money. That's for coffee. That's for your chocolate bar, your Slurpee, whatever it is you desire. You take that 1%, you give 1% to everybody in your household. And the reason for that, and this applies to every paycheck coming in, the reason for that is because it gets you to the point, it takes the money, the feel of the paycheck from I'm working to pay my bills to I'm working and paying my bills. This is kind of a critical, fundamental change. Okay, and it's the reality is $1 off of every 100 is not likely to make much of a difference. But with that in mind, if you do not have the money to pay your rent and or your power, that 1% is going to have to be forfeited to make sure those get covered. And I will tell you, if you don't, you're just asking for a problem. Okay, it's the same as if you're striving to loan money to somebody. Somebody asks you for a hand. Loaning the money is fine, but never, ever, ever loan money if you are worried that you're not going to get it back. If you cannot afford to lose it at all, and this is just a personal philosophy. If you cannot afford to lose it at all and lose it altogether, do not loan it out. It's that simple. Okay, and this whole idea of there's all kinds of legal loopholes and what have you that you can use so you don't have to pay it back. There are massive complications with that. So you take that 1%, okay, and that gets turned over to everybody in the household because they're all helping, theoretically, to run the household. Okay, even if we're talking about the little people. Okay, if we're talking about the children and all they're doing is setting the dinner table, they're still doing something to help with the household. They're still putting effort in, and therefore, by dealing with that side of it, what you end up doing is changing their feeling of they're still contributing, they're still gaining an understanding of the way money works. Now, the nice part about it is if you train your children. I got a kick out of it. I saw it posted one day really well. We're not raising children. We're raising adults. And if the adults that are being raised do not know how to handle finances, if you think the world is a mess right now, take a look at what happens. Okay, take a look at what's coming. Rome did exactly the same thing, and Rome came into a real neat outcome. Okay, the monarchies were overturned for the most part because, in essence, they put themselves on a pedestal and said, "We're better than you are because the blood that runs through our veins is different than yours." No, it's not. Okay, absolutely accolades to the people that are now sitting in the billionaire seat. One day I may end up there, but it's certainly not my goal. Okay, my goal is simple: to not have to worry about my finances so I can do what I choose to do. It's that easy for me. It may not be for you, but you get your finances so you know where you're standing, you've got a place to start, and then you just concentrate on getting 1 penny more at the end of the month. Okay, than you had at the beginning of the month. Now here's the kicker. You're aiming at that. So let's say you end up with $1 more. Okay, you still draw that boundary. Like I've got, for instance, in my case, I've got bills that amount to 1,300. What is it? 1040. Yeah, to $1,300 that have to go out. Now, am I leaving it at that? No. Okay, I'm looking at my bank account here, and I know for an absolute certainty the 13's got to be there, right? So I'm saying, okay, I've got it. I will not let it drop below 50. Okay, and the reason for that is my bank account is not sitting where I desire it to be. Same as you. Find it where you are. That's the bottom line. You do not drop below that. But every time you go along, bring it up a little as you can. Kind of like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Keep bringing the bottom floor up, and you're going to end up in financially better shape. It's just a natural side effect. As my father used to put it, you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. Okay. Now, on that note, if you like the video, do give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more information coming through. And this is really where we have to start shifting gears. It's time to change this world, to work together, to make this a better world. Now, before it's too late. Now, I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.